Greetings, my name is Michael Miller. This is a Michael Miller trademark training video out to you because you're watching. Thank you and welcome. It's meant for Michael Miller Pilates licensed affiliates, licensed presenters, the Core New Core, my patrons, and anyone interested in surviving and thriving as a Pilates instructor. So I have one, a long, two, and then three. So just three things today. The title is Protect Your Knowledge. Protect your knowledge. And by your knowledge, I mean what you know, and then in what you know, your lineage and your heritage as a Pilates practitioner or instructor. So protect your heritage, protect your culture. Which takes me to number two. Well, actually, the end of protect your culture. To protect your culture, keep learning. Keep learning. And in that regard, I'm pointing to learning about at least my explanation of Pilates that in some ways is distinctive in the culture we're currently in, predominantly based in folklore, that is word of mouth. So keep learning, learn about this explanation, and don't defend ignorance or mystery to the point of unexplainable, because I have a pretty good explanation and others are aware of the explanation. So I want you to be too. And so why? Because if you can't explain yourself, you can't defend yourself. When it comes to Pilates, the whole culture of folklore is all about, what you are and what you're passing on. It's about you. It's about word of mouth. And there is no it to it other than what you make of it from your exposure to culture and then how you pass it on to the next generation. Folklore. In MMP there's an explanation, and because MMP has an explanation, and it's not too bad a one at that, to protect what you already know, my point is, adding number one and number two, to protect what you already know, keep learning, and something to learn about Pilates that goes beyond of or outside of folklore by way of a theory that explains what it is a very good second scoop of ice cream. Meaning, instead of a double dip of folklore, entertain, adding knowledge of an explanation that's not word of mouth, but that is based on and apparent in Joe's original book. So to me, that's a monumental identification. And then the other monumental identification is that of core new tension. So I think they're both really big. I can only tell you how I feel about them. It's up to you to decide what to make of them. But in the MMP POV of Pilates, there is an it, meaning it has an essence of its own, and that it is an experience. So for whatever other points of view there are out there, MMP narrows itself considerably by saying that Pilates is an experience. And so my next title to that is, what does I teach Pilates mean? If someone says, I teach Pilates, what does that mean? Is it what you know of Pilates that you take towards the individual? And to what extent are you taking the individual, any individual, towards something specific, and towards something ideal in the case of MMP, an ideal that points to an experience in the pursuit of an ideal choreography when it comes to being a reflection of the reality that we're trying to survive in. That takes me to my next title is, Pilates is a two-way street. And as an instructor, the more aware you are that Pilates is headed towards it, meaning Pilates, and it meaning the experience. The easier it is and the stronger you'll be in going the other direction in Pilates, which is taking Pilates towards the individual. Maybe they're one and the same thing in your mind, but to me it definitely seems that most of Pilates is geared toward a personalization of experience that's then delivered through word of mouth and performance and all of it, but not having an explanation. So please correct me if I'm wrong, but out there in the original work or in any of the points of view of Pilates, is there an explanation to why it is what it is? And so in determining what it is, in terms of what is your definition of Pilates, the why comes before the what. We've talked about that already. So protect Pilates by protect what you already know. By adding to it, get more knowledge. The knowledge that I have to share with you is not folklore, it's theory. And theory is an explanation that doesn't exist in the folklore. And the explanation comes straight from Joe to you, and that you can experience for yourself. And attach an intellectual understanding to the experience that it's talking about, MMP is talking about. So Pilates is an invitation to return to life. Title of his book, right? Contrology, Return to Life Through Contrology. Well, Pilates then is an invitation to return to life. And how does that happen? Two major adjectives for how that happens in Pilates is movement and ideals. Meaning that there's movement in Pilates, and at least from the MMP point of view, the movement aspires toward the ideals pointed to in the original choreography. in the book. I guess so. Yeah. And then number 3, asymmetrical Pilates. Right, so this is symmetrical. If you divide it in two, for the most part, one side would reflect the other. Like us as human beings, even though there can be drastic differences in the symmetry, the aspiration for symmetry or the advantages to symmetry are the mobility that it affords the organism, okay? Be it shell or human, or anything else in between. Imagine supine on the reformer with hands in the foot straps that are connected to the springs of the carriage. And where you might normally make symmetrical, or historically make symmetrical circles, the example done here was one arm doing this and the other arm doing this, and making the carriage move through that articulation, is how I would describe it. The movement in the arm engagement, engaging in two different planes. The midline plane, or something parallel to it, and the lateral plane, or look it up, I don't want to say the wrong word, dividing us front to back. The point I want to make to you is that in all of this asymmetrical expression of movement, in my opinion, you're headed towards Pilates. You're headed towards the expression of the ideal. And in the expression of the ideal is the interest in symmetry. So as much as there's good control, and I can see an expression of ideal movement that's outside of or beyond the original work. And to whether or not it's an extension of or a means to the symmetry that so much of Pilates historically strives for. I think it's an acronym in a way, or the two words don't fit, that's why one's in quotes. Because does it make sense to pursue asymmetrical Pilates? Maybe as part of the pursuit of the symmetry, of refining and enhancing and developing the symmetry, but my point would be keeping in mind that your aim or your target is for a symmetrical expression. Life can't live forever, so read between the lines and see behind the curtain Add two and two. Connect the dots. Direct your thinking. See, direct your thinking, you know. Geist.